Hey unknowns, thanks for picking Where Press is Sending, We're the Unknowns. Starting with Russ R. Russell here, and joining with me,
Wizard Eye, what's up?
Wizard Eye. Alright, now we're having a very interesting topic,
That's right, folks.
and that topic will be
Talking about the Nintendo 64. Oh, well, specifically, why I'm worried about Pat the NES Punk book on the Ultimate Nintendo 64 book.
I agree.
Well, the Ultimate Guide to the Nintendo 64 book. I think, I don't know, whatever it is called. Those guidebooks that he usually do for classic video game systems.
Yeah, he will have a big book that talks about every single game, and even games that are homebrewed or, unlicensed,
Yeah. Now, my personal opinion, bro, is I'm worried. I'm a little bit worried because Pat the NES Punk is actually using emulations on the Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no secret. I don't even know if I should say I'm a super fan. I mean, I'm a huge fan.
Me too.
I mean, so huge.
So huge too.
That was literally our first video game system, and like they say, oh, who cares? It's the Nintendo 64. Well, I care, and obviously, other people seem to care.
Yeah.
And it's like Pat is trying to market these books to nostalgia people like us.
Yeah.
For this book, and look, I know some people, and I've seen some YouTubers mentioning like, oh, he doesn't care about video games since the NES, and why is he writing a book? Now, most people should understand there's a lot of books that people don't really care about, and they write it anyway. What I really care about is if it's well represented and well done.
Well researched.
Yeah, well researched. I don't mind if a guy doesn't like it and just doing it for the paycheck. What I care about is it well done? Because I don't think you need a guy who cares to do a really well done book. Credit is due. Even someone who's that passionate about a certain product, it's not easy to do it, as perfect as it is.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I had no doubt Pat the NES Punk as a writer will probably do a lot better compared to his other two books. From experience, from understanding. But what I'm trying to say is what worries me is how he's approaching the reviews. Now, if it was just a his opinion, or like I don't want to say emulation guide, but like more like a guidebook to the Nintendo 64 library, then it'd be fine. It wouldn't have been bothered. But he's treating it and is marketed like a encyclopedia. And the one thing I don't like about when someone's trying to treat a encyclopedia is put their personal reviews in there.
Oh yeah, and especially when Pat, he doesn't like this Nintendo 64. He personally does not like the system.
And I understand if some people don't like the system because of frame rate, being on, game pack format with, in other words, cartridges. And I get it. The controlling for a lot of people don't like it, which I never understood. I never broke my joystick.
Me neither.
Most people claim they do, and I'm like, I never did. But though, I mean, I don't know. Maybe because I do have, soft hands, and I can't really play video games for a long time, so it's like maybe it's just us. But I mean, maybe people do press their controller really hard. Maybe it's just us with like
me can't even tap the A button fast.
I know, right?
I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, right. Actually, I don't even know how most people hold their controller with, sometimes like, doing this. I mean, I mean, I doubt people could see it, but I meant like tilt the controller like to the side like that. Like I don't know. But I mean, for some reason, I'm able to do it in Nintendo 64 because that's how you're supposed to hold the controller
Yes.
to the side.
Mm-hmm.
But I meant like when they do this, by the way, like almost like a surfing, like they move their arms like that. I literally had to hold it in place like this, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how people could do that, by the way. Do this. I wish I could show it, but how they had the controller to the side, like this way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, unless people don't actually play it that way, it's probably just like a TV thing that I'm probably seeing. But then, yet again, I do see people stream like actually you do it once a while, and I'm like, bro, if you move your controller like that, it's not going to affect the game.
I know, but it just feels like I got to.
I don't know. Maybe it's the Nintendo Wii remote. Maybe that's how people got used to that. I do not know. I mean, I hate it with the gamepad when, using that to move around.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that.
Especially the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where there's segments where you had to move the controller and tilt. But I'm getting a little bit off subject. The whole point that I'm a little disappointed is that it's not completely, true. These reviews, because in emulation, unless you I guess if you have a converter to a controller, an actual Nintendo 64 controller, that original design,
Yeah,
not the redesign that it's like a modern controller, not that one, the actual like M shape controller.
yeah.
And I would have to admit, I'm not the biggest fan of that controller. But that controller really was the most unique controller I ever played, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
My personal favorite controller is the Nintendo GameCube. And it's funny, I've been using that same controller for 4 different Nintendo systems.
Like I said, the Nintendo GameCube is the Nintendo controller.
I kind of wish that was the standard controller.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But, I mean, the Nintendo 64 controller... it's pretty unique because most people don't know is that the original design was meant for a way for people to transition from 2D to 3D. Because the handles on the sides was meant for people that play 2D games to hold it like that for games that doesn't require the joystick.
Yeah.
One example, if I could remember, was Dr. Mario 64, though that's a title way far, I can't remember the top of my head what early games was like that. I just remember Dr. Mario 64 because I play that game every year.
Yeah, every...
New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, New Year's. But the joystick, the Joy-Cons, or not Joy-Cons, the joystick.
Yeah.
Controller, the controller stick. I'm trying to remember the actual term that Nintendo termed that one. It's almost like WWE. It's like, hey, they're not belt, they're champions, or they're not hospital, they're medical facility.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo have their own terms too. I think it was control stick. I'm trying to actually use the terms from the back of my head.
Yeah.
Though I claim I'm like a super fan, but yet I can't recall the the controller stick. But the whole point is that the controller stick, right, is not usable in that game. It's actually the D-pad.
Yeah.
You actually use that to move around the game. Literally, if someone broke the joystick, as some claims, they could still use the controller. Let's say just for Dr. Mario 64.
I remember WWF, WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy. You never used the joystick unless you're trying to do a finisher.
Yeah. So some games don't really require using... Well, actually, when I mean some, I mean like handful, like few, don't really use that. Jolly Stick. Now I don't remember. Was Mischief was a maker was like that?
I don't remember neither.
Ah man, because I did use the D-pad. No. It was both. You could technically use both, but the controller stick wasn't meant for movement. If I remember, it was meant for something else. I can't remember. It's been a while. Ah man. But yeah. It's like for example, Mischief Maker, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be meant for like games like that early in development, where like if people were still using 2D, they were, I guess we were hoping for some like games to be like side scrolling, but very few titles were kind of like that. They were mostly 3D open areas,
Yeah.
to explore. It's almost the opposite with Super Mario 64, where the D-pad doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's completely useless. I mean, of course, I guess they could have done something to that, but their mentality is that they were hoping for the people to hold the controller to the side. Hoping the position is this way, not that way.
Yeah.
And that's what most people did not understood the controller. And I guess Shigeru Miyamoto, and for all the people, and I hear that before, by the way, when they were always reviewing the Nintendo 64, but whoever designed that controller should be fired. Well, Shigeru Miyamoto should be fired then, because he literally was thinking that, by the way.
Yeah.
That was all on him, by the way. So, and yes, there's a lot of controversial decision that he did during the Nintendo 64 era, but I'm not going to go through all that. What I'm trying to go through is that the Nintendo 64 experience is the hardware. And this is the puzzle part with Nintendo Switch Online with the Nintendo 64 expansion pack.
Mm-hmm.
It's Pokemon Stadium 2, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, and
Mickey Mouse Speedway USA?
well, no, I'm talking about what the games that are in there, by the way.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. That is a unique experience. But no, I'm talking about any games that require the expansion, not expansion pack, the
Game Boy Color.
Transfer pack.
Mm-hmm.
The Transfer pack. That one is a little bit strange because the experience is mostly through that Transfer pack. And one of the reasons why I love the Nintendo 64 over Sony PlayStation, the original, was that ability to use the Nintendo Game Boy Color, or I guess Nintendo Game Boy, to transfer over data to there and back and forth, especially Mario Golf. That was a pretty unique experience, and I love that. I absolutely love it, and it's weird that if you're gonna have like an unbiased review or like a review in general, how can you review it without that, or how can you like port that without that experience?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was so puzzled with the Nintendo Switch Online. It's like how those contests are technically, are not usable.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I guess you could technically beat the game with rental in Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2, but it's better off to customize the Pokemon you wanted and compete through that. And I had the same experience with Pokemon Coliseum. That was pretty cool, by the way.
It is.
I always love that. And yeah, I get it. And there's other games that that kind of use the Transfer Pack, like you said, Mickey Mouse Speedway USA, Perfect Dark. If you were like in Europe, during like I guess the PAL version, Tonic Trouble, because it uses the I think also that feature too.
Yeah.
I might be wrong, but if I was correct, there were like hidden feature between the Game Boys, Rayman games, and Tonic Trouble. I don't know if it was also just to Rayman 2, but I'm getting off subject. It's just the experience were there. Like Nintendo liked to use gimmick hardware, and it's like how can you emulate that? I mean, I guess technically one could emulate it by manipulating, I guess, certain files and stuff like mods. Mod the game,
Yeah.
but the actual experience to put the game, in the device and put it on the controller, and also, some games like Mario Party, like it's fun to do it with four players, and I don't know, it's weird because I feel like Pat the NES Punk is not putting, and he doesn't have to put his heart into it, but it's the way he marketed is what puzzled me.
Me too.
And if I remember from not a YouTube video, he seems to not take the criticism well. And I think one of them, he said, you guys, are jealous or because you guys can't criticize him because they're not doing it. They're not like writers or something, or they don't know how it's like to do it, so you can't criticize me. Well, Pat, then you can't really do the same when you criticize video game because you're not a video game developer.
Yeah.
I always felt like that's a flawed argument. It's like saying that to a chef. Well, it's always that example has been the whole rest of that example is put down to death. It's almost like I mean, it's almost
Teaching.
like teaching. I guess so. Like, can you give me an example?
Well, when a college professor is trying to teach the whole classroom for a test, yeah, sure. It's up to the students whether or not, they take what they learn. But there's some of them, that can learn really good, and it's up to the teacher to help guide them, to, help them learn these stuff.
I was gonna say, imagine they have a test, and all the things that the teacher teach is not in the test.
Yeah.
Completely different.
That too.
Answers. And I have certain college professor was like that. Though technically, not shame on me. I'm like one of the few people that actually read textbooks, but I guess not shame. To be honest, it's weird, but no, because it was shame on me on that one time when I actually read the book and not actual paying attention to the not that I wasn't paying attention. It's just I didn't study as hard on the lectures. And I realized that most of the stuff he said during the class that wasn't in the textbook was in the test.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, shame on me for that. For doing the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole point is, I think it's a flaw, respond, saying that because you guys are not doing it, you can't really criticize. So, sure, I can't criticize movies or video games that I like playing.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I say something look awful or something is awful, not just like looking, but like playing it. So I can't say this game sucks because I don't develop a video game. Heck, you develop a video game. You develop your first video game, right?
Yeah.
So technically you could argue about video games, right?
Yeah, but I'm not in that like giant level. But I have some great knowledge on it.
Yeah, you and Big Dog OK are like one of the few that develop video games.
Yeah.
I'm not really a real video game developer. I just like to mess around with things. But no, I can't really say that somebody could really criticize because they're not doing it. So, I mean, I hear that in wrestling too. Like, because they can't wrestle, why are you criticizing my performers? I always say that if I'm entertained, I'm entertained. If I'm not entertained, then how is that, I guess technically one could argue, yes, it's your fault for not liking, but in the same time, I mean, it's my opinion. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's weird because I quite understand what some people say about that. But I could also say I think some people get a little bit too upset if it was the way that Pat the NES Punk say he didn't market it as a ultimate guide, but he marketed it as the ultimate guide.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people will have that problem, by the way. I wouldn't have that problem if he put a disclosure that it was done under emulation.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we don't know how that book is going to be like. And the thing with emulation, right, is that, well, at least for the Nintendo 64 side, right?
Yeah.
It fixes a lot of things. It fixes the frame rate issue that Nintendo 64 games sometimes suffers. It fixes audio. It fixes a lot of bugs. And remember, the doublers forget to optimize Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64. So, emulation literally fixes all that, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and I learned so much, by the way, when I researched through people that actually did emulation.
Yeah.
I don't think using emulation as a review is my personal problem. Is, like I keep saying for the maybe 4th or 5th time already, is how he's marketing it, by the way. Because you can't really put an ultimate guide without telling the actual issues of the hardware, by the way. And also the whole 4-player port. That's like one of the best things, by the way, on the Nintendo 64. You get to play it like more than 2 people. And I always consider it the greatest system of all time, along with the Nintendo GameCube, because of the party element that a lot of games have, by the way.
Yeah.
And I know the Sony PlayStation have that adapter where you could play multiple player. But for that system, I always viewed it more of a one-person experience, single-player experience.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, me and you had played like games like, what was it, Crash Bash?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't the same, though, compared to playing like Mario Party with having our sister, our parents, our friends. Heck, like I think several months ago, it was like what? Me. Wait, were you playing?
Which one was it?
It was Mario Kart 64. It was Big Dog OK, Josh John.
Yeah, I was playing.
Oh, you were playing? Okay. I know Tony was there, but I don't think he was playing. I think he was just talking with Risher or something. But, on the phone with Risher. If I remember, it was like, we were playing the multiplayer, both the racing and the battles.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, when me and you and Sis played Rampage, that was so much fun with the 3-person experience.
I agree.
And it's weird because like I don't know if Pat is actually emulating the games. Like if it have like more than 4 players, or 2 players, is he like asking those, because it's not him writing this. He have writers, and it was the same thing with the first book. But the thing is, though, with the first book, right? I don't know if you know a guy named, what's his name again? Brad Wiss. I think I'm saying it right. Brad Wiss. Because I remember Brad Wiss, actually. This is how I know this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about, it was a video, about Review Tech USA. Richard Mineski, right? And he was talking about how he put up a video saying that playing video game felt like it's starting to feel like work instead of having fun. Like, or I guess it was more something like he's not having fun with video games anymore.
Yeah.
And he was reflecting that, and he was like, he got a good point about it. But though I kind of laugh and giggle when he said that he's a very good YouTuber. I kind of gag and giggle. I mean, the whole point was that that's how I discovered the guy, by the way.
Yeah.
And no, I don't watch his videos like all the time. I do watch it once in a while, by the way. Not once in a while, like as in like maybe a week I'll watch it, and then the next week maybe 2. No. I mean like one every 6 months or so, by the way. I mean that's how once in a while is, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know much about him, to be honest, but a guy that liked to sell his book. And it's funny because I seen in that video he was explaining in the end about selling his book. The thing is between Brad Wiss and Pat the NES Punk is that Brad Wiss is more open, by the way, about selling his book. Pat the NES Punk, I don't want to call him a poser, but he's, and I don't want to say some mid-roll message neither, but he's not truly explaining his advertisement. Not truly, well, no. It's just
He's not the right guy for the job.
no. He's not telling you his true intention. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Not that he's not the right person for the job. I see he might be the right person for the job if he's just, be open about what that book is truly about. Heck, I might even buy it, by the way, if he was open about it. Now, the first time I heard that he was actually using emulation, I actually remember when we were in Too Many Games 2018, because I kind of noticed when he was doing like his presentation and did a little contest, he was using emulation, by the way, on the games that people were playing, by the way.
Yeah.
I kind of noticed is that he was talking about how he used emulation to do some of his work, and which didn't bother me or anything. I just noticed that it's one of those things that probably have a reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't really not that I wasn't big into emulation. I wasn't really aware of the things that emulation does, by the way.
Yeah.
Actually, if you think about it, we did went from a long way because like back in high school, when we did emulate these Nintendo 64 games on school, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were like the worst, by the way.
Yeah.
They're the worst. But I was even surprised I was able to beat the original Super Smash Bros. in emulation, if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember.
But it went to a long way though. And I wasn't aware that a lot of emulation fixes Nintendo 64 problems. Or actually not just Nintendo 64, but other systems. NES, SNES. Until I noticed a video from Alpha Gamer Dude, back when he was in YouTube. Back when he was doing videos criticizing and trolling other YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things he mentioned was Pat the NES Punk using emulation to review that NES book. Talking about that he said that book is useless because emulation fixes a lot of problems. And that's when I first noticed that, heard that phrase. And that's when I first noticed about Super Mario 64, looking back at it now. And I'll be honest, I never noticed the frame rate, by the way. I'll be completely honest.
Who cares about frame rate?
Yeah, no, me too. I'm not really big on criticizing frame rate, but I never noticed that. And, like the Nintendo Wii, Nintendo Wii U, all that stuff. I never noticed, by the way, the difference in performance. Maybe the Nintendo Wii U, I did notice that, actually. But, because I noticed how awful it looked from the emulation. Not how awful, but it was like more greedier, more grayer.
Yeah.
It looked like the Nintendo Wii was so beautiful, by the way.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, I kind of realized why people call it the best emulation system. And yeah. And now I don't know about Super Mario 64 DS. Even so, that's one of the few games I actually play every year.
Yeah.
I still don't notice the frame rate, in my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really good at that, by the way.
Me neither.
I do recognize lagging, though. That I really do recognize.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And I could totally understand, by the way, how Alpha Gamer Dude was talking about how those reviews were useless. But in the same time, I could understand how emulation is useful. when it comes to trying to share a copy of a game. Now, I know Pat the NES Punk knows a lot of video game collectors. He's you know, have, communication to them from his interviews, by the way.
Yeah.
So he could absolutely probably could get a rare game and then pass it around between writers. But the thing is also is that, okay, want to get like an EverDrive. He doesn't want to spend like, what, 10, 12 different EverDrive and pass it around to writers. Or, well, sending it to writers to, to play it on original hardware.
Yeah.
I guess what he could have done, and I don't know if he ever said it or anything, maybe he did, was that to pass it around, like, I guess the EverDrive,
Mm-hmm.
at least, or at least get some of the common games, the easy to find games, and then you just leave the very rare or medium, medium rare, no, not medium rare, but you know what I mean, the harder it is, or at least the ones that are uncommon. How about that?
Yeah.
Uncommon copies. And share it around to different people.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, why I say that is because Hunckerback Fur Day is not a rare game. It's just a hard to get and most desirable game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing with Hunckerback Fur Day is the more demand it is, the harder it is to obtain the copy.
Yeah.
That's like almost a lot of collectors, in their collections. And I am so grateful to have that game, by the way, and played it as a kid. So
I'm grateful for all this Nintendo 64 games.
I know, right? Funny enough, though, I could understand this type of. I'm going with Hunckerback Fur Day, because in the original NES book that he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was using his biases, on a game that he remember. I guess I never read the book. This is from secondhand, account from other people saying this. I don't know if they're truthful or wrong, but I heard that he used his childhood memory to review these games. By the way,
Yeah.
and I remember this one person made this argument about opinion change over time. If you have fun as a kid, how is it going to be the same as you're an adult? And I remember playing Hunckerback Fur Day when Banjo and Kazooie was announced for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I went and replayed a lot of the rare games, including Hunckerback Fur Day, and especially Hunker Pocket Tail. But the thing is, I never knew how difficult Hunckerback Fur Day was. And actually, I could say the same thing with Super Mario Sunshine. I used to not understand when people say that game is hard until I played it. What was it? Last year, right? Yeah, it was last year. Yeah, last year. For its anniversary.
Yeah, 20th anniversary.
Yeah, its 20th anniversary. I was playing that game. I did not realize how difficult that game can be, by the way. I was mind blown because that game was super easy when I was a kid. But then it's like our friend Tehran said, by the way. Spidey or Spider, depending,
Mm-hmm.
or in our friend group call them.
Continue.
But I remember he saying that as we were kids, we have a lot of time in the world compared when we were adults, where time is a lot shorter. We have more responsibility as adults compared when we were kids. And yeah, I get it. School is a huge responsibility, but some people also have kids. Some people also have other commitments, like coaching or have a second job.
Yeah.
And I quite understand what he was going with. Though I felt like in the same time, though, it also could do something with the more older we get, the less, because Edda said this too, or I think it was Big Dog OK. our minds is not as flashy as it is, you know. And I think it was Big Dog OK when talking about chess players. Their prime would start, their mental sharpness. Chess players declines in their 30s, and I think I said I hope not. And but I get it, because my mind is not as sharp as it was when I was a kid. By the way.
Yeah. And plus, when you're a kid, you don't have a lot of things in your mind. But when you turn to adult, the more you learn, you complicate things.
So yeah, and
that's why, you're smarter than a fifth grader. The fifth grader tend to be more smarter. Like the adult is like saying, "Oh, how come I didn't thought of that?" Because he's not simple thinking.
Yeah, and and I get, because when I told Big Dog okay I wanted to be in the 90s, he was like, "Why? As an adult, why?" Because I wanted to see it as an adult's perspective in the 90s, but I only could say it as a kid's perspective. And I really truly want to understand if I was watching, television, what is like all the joke that I missed out, by the way, as a kid, not knowing what it means. But that's not the point. The point is that opinion changed over time. And when I was playing Hunger Fur Day, it was the most literal, difficult game I played out of all the rarer games besides Perfect Dark. And I still didn't beat that game. Yes, sadly, I never beat Perfect Dark. Yeah, I still can't beat Perfect Dark. It is a game that will forever haunt me, by the way, because I can't beat that final boss. I just can't, by the way. Yeah, I mean, even in easy mode, I still can't do it. That's not the point, though. The point is that I could truly understand opinion changing from a kid's perspective to an adult perspective. So if I ever want to do a review, right, I have to go back playing, so I can have fresh memory, by the way.
Yeah, definitely to have your memory fresh.
Yeah, and it's not really a big deal, to be honest, if a guy really does use, from like what they remember as a kid in their reviews. It's not maybe it's a big deal, by the way, for some people, because bias get in the way.
Yeah.
But it's a big deal for me if it's like a book that is supposed to be an encyclopedia. Now, I don't know if like how he's approaching these reviews, by the way.
Yeah.
I never read the NES and the NES book, but I heard that he went through 3 different revisions on the NES. And I never look at the book, right? And it's funny because I remember Living Run Games was actually selling Pat the NES Punk book, and I think it was probably, I don't know what edition, but I know the first edition was rushed just for the release of the NES Classic Mini.
What timing?
Right? And I understand capitalizing it. As a businessman, one would love to capitalize that, by the way.
Yeah.
I understand. I didn't say I don't like it. I said I understand.
Yeah, I think like a businessman, too.
So I understand that mentality. He shows profit over morals. Yes, I understand that, actually. I don't like it, but I understand it. I won't be too mad at it, though.
Me too.
But the thing is, when he did the second revision, I don't think he wrote it as the second edition. I think it's just the same book. You just had to know it's the second edition. And the thing is also with that book, right? And I think it was also the original review. It has some of what's his name again? Brett Weiss. That guy, the one I mentioned earlier, was talking about review drama USSR.
Yeah.
The thing is, he took out all of his reviews because he think there were bad reviews. And I remember some people mentioning that, it must be that opinion change, But it turned out it was, the reviews were really bad and rushed. And some people speculated that it was because Brad Weiss was actually coming up with his own book, the Omnibus SNES book. It was like 2 volumes, and I think because of that, he got bitter. That he was putting out the SNES Omnibus book.
Yeah.
Now, when I saw the Junobi video, it kind of opened my eyes up a little bit with how Pat approached the NES book. I was very aware of the whole Cheetah book. Sorry, Cheetah Man NES game, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember that because I was a fan of the Angry Video Game Nerd, and I remember that Suspicious Controversy. But the thing, what I wasn't really truly aware, was that it was probably a scam, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, and the game did eventually came out, but it was like tweaked it a little bit, or maybe it wasn't tweaked it at all, but it was basically like the same type of game that a guy previously revived it, by the way. So, and people questioned the price too, being why $60. Now, I know Junobi talk about a guy, that does like reproduction carts.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that he doesn't understand even at time back then why it was that price. And I remember hearing some divided opinions on it. Now, what type of opinion I agreed on is that I will say that it was just one guy saying this. We need to talk to more than just one guy to understand if what the price was justifiable being $60. Because I still see that type of pricing to this day for reproducing full boxes and with manuals and the cardboard box and everything.
Yeah.
The full mile, by the way, to get that old school feeling. I still see it around that price tag. And I can't really jump into the conclusion of maybe it was overpriced. I can't because I still see those type of pricing to this day, by the way. Because I like to buy aftermarket games. So, especially the Sega Dreamcast and the Nintendo Game Boy Color.
Yeah.
I still see that price, by the way. So, I truly can't say about that. But the whole video from being a shill to a salesman is probably, spot on with Pat the NES Punk.
Yeah.
And he's a businessman. I can't really, get mad at him from being that businessman perspective. I think it's smart what he's doing. But in the same time, I kind of wish he was more open and less, insecure, by the way, about the way he's responding to these criticisms.
His ego.
Yeah. I know I'm talking a lot, but do you have any opinions?
Well, one thing, I'm fine the way he's probably using emulation for, he say, to have the better picture, I
better screenshot.
Yeah.
And the more convenient for writers to, work on.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Cool. But he's not the guy for the Nintendo 64. Let's be honest. He's Pat the NES Punk. He's more knowledgeable on Nintendo Entertainment System. He knows from the tip of his mind, all about that system.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't know many things on the Nintendo 64,
Yeah. Now, this is a little bit off subject, right? But I remember something about Griffin Gaming when he was talking about Phil Spencer, about people wanted to fire him, right? Or want him gone, right?
Yeah.
But then, who would replace him? it's easy to criticize someone and say, if I was him, I will do this, I will do that, I will do this, I will do that. It's easy to say that. Be in our couch or chair or beds or floor for, Dreamcast lie in his case. And just criticize, right? But it's really hard, right, to actually execute it, by the way.
Yeah.
And I agree with Griffin Gaming, where firing him was probably not going to be the best solution. And if they do, somebody worse might take his place.
Yeah.
What we want is for that guy to improve, by the way.
Yeah.
And, yeah, improve everything, really. And I want to apply that with Pat the NES Punk. I think he might be the guy to do this job because he learned from his mistake, right? From the SNES. Compared from the NES, by the way, when he did that book.
Yeah.
It's always trial and error, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heck, he even had 3 end editions for that NES book.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, and for the thing is that I want Pat the NES Punk to improve, by the way. And the Nintendo 64 is not a big library.
I know.
So, and I understand using emulation for those hard to find games. The rare games.
Yeah.
Completely understandable. Heck, I don't even own all the rare Nintendo 64 games. I'm so close to finishing the library. But those hard to find games are always killing me, by the way. I'm always trying to look for a good price for them.
Oh, but for the record, we do own the rarest Nintendo 64 games. It's just...
yeah, we own 2 copies of Clay... Well, when I mean 2 copies, I mean bro own a copy, I own a copy of Clay Fighter Sculpture Cut.
Yeah.
Funny enough, we played it as kids in Blockbuster.
That's how I even knew the game existed.
Yeah,
That's how I learned about Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, well, actually, Earthworm Jim was the hidden character in that game, right?
Yeah, but you could still, fight him.
Yeah. The whole point, though, is, wait, what was the whole point?
Oh, well, I was trying to clarify, if people think that we don't own rare games, we do own rare games.
Oh, yeah, like, Bomberman 64, The Second Attack.
Yeah.
Back then, when it was, like, what, 250?
Yeah.
And, Eddie was, like, mad at us for spending that much money. And it's funny, it was in, Too Many Games, 2018.
Yeah.
Probably that same day we, met Pat the NES Punk, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, funny enough. And... that's funny. He was looking at different vendors about asking the price for that same game.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's not a game collector like us, so. And also, yeah, I don't like to flex, but I want to flex on this because I love the Nintendo 64. But I am so happy, by the way, with some of the conditions we have in our game pack.
Yes.
So, yeah. Yeah, so. And I almost could say the same thing with the Nintendo GameCube, except I'm not even close. I'm probably like 1/6 of owning the library. Basically, I own like over maybe 100 or 150 games. I lost count how many we have. But we're nowhere close of actually owning the entire library. Nowhere close.
Unlike the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, it's an easier collection to get. Well, I can't say easier. Some of these games are really pricey, but the NES and SNES also had those. Probably saying them out, but
yeah.
But the whole point is, I quite understand Pat the NES Punk wanted to go with the emulation route. The thing is, it's those hardware experience. And I'm a little bit scared that his bias will get the best of him.
Yeah.
And it would be cool, though, if he maybe included mods, certain like, maybe aftermarket games.
Yeah. Like Super Smash Brother Remix.
Yeah. And funny enough, Marina Lightyear's in that. But that's not the point. The point is that it's just he could do wonders in that book, but we don't know yet. By the way,
Yeah, we can't accuse. One of the things I don't like to do is to accuse.
he might actually surprise us and do a really good game. It's like the Side Scroller broadcast. A lot of people were surprised, by the way, or the Boogie 2988 versus Ring of Redemption.
Yeah.
A lot were surprised that they went past round 1.
Yes.
And yeah, so there's a lot of surprises that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be mad at what Pat the NES Punk is. It's just that I'm trying to criticize because I'm worried. I want that book to be good. And there are other Nintendo 64 guys out there. I remember there was this one that came out many years ago. Never bought it though. Though it was almost similar what Pat the NES Punk is going to do. No, actually it is similar. I remember seeing some photos, those like example photos, and talking about the different version of Rampage 2, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And the different box versions. If you remember, we got the one with the T-shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
What was it, like a Sears or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, talking about like different controllers, different copies of a game. I never read the book or bought the book. I remember considering buying it, but I ultimately did not. But it's just that Pat the NES Punk, I extremely wonder how he's going to approach it, by the way.
Me too.
And by the way, I know that same guy that did that Nintendo 64 guide
Mm-hmm.
also did the Nintendo GameCube, if I was recalling.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's like a black cover with like, I think the Nintendo 64 was like red outlines. In the Nintendo GameCube, of course, it's the purple outline.
Yeah.
But yeah. Now, I do want to go over this quote that Pat the NES Punk had, by the way.
Yeah.
So he said, why am I? We are using emulators because there is like 20 different writers, first of all. So when it comes down to, okay, first you had to get a flashcard to every writer. You have got to make sure they got the hardware. How do you capture it? Using a flashcard. You have to a computer and a software to do that. Now, once you capture the video, you have got to go through that. Now you have got to pick out pictures in the video. So you are basically quadrupling the amount of work being done. So, what do you think of that quote, by the way?
Well, one thing for sure. Is it really necessary to have 20 writers?
Well, if you're like one writer, and it might take for like a very long time. I mean, doing it by yourself, it's like that guy that did what? That game, Ration and Clyde?
Yeah.
Took him 10 years to complete that game?
Yeah.
Um,
He had a team, he lost the team, and it was up to him to finish it.
So, yeah, and you remember the credit, by the way?
10 years.
Yeah, and how exhausted he is.
Yeah.
Hoping if like his audience or, his, the people playing his game want a sequel, he will consider a sequel.
Yeah.
If not, back to, regular job, enjoying, well, no, more like saying being tired. Either way. But now he want to go back to West.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is to lower the amount of work, by the way.
Yes, but you wanted to stay consistency. Like, maybe just 5 to 10. I mean, and people who already knows the 64 things, Like...
Yeah, like, why not get somebody like... I mean, we don't know who are those writers, first of all.
Yeah, all we know, Casey Mays could have been one of them.
Well, Case Emulator. Darn. Oh yeah, Nathaniel Bandy, Simple Flip, Snorlax, Mark Cope, the one that did the Banjo-Kazooie mods.
Yeah.
Or all those Nintendo 64 YouTubers, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, you got like Nintendo, that's very knowledgeable in Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
You got other guys that could literally help out, by the way, or
Yeah.
ask advice for it. Actually, Case Emulator, the one with the Yoshi. He's pretty awesome, by the way. Especially Yoshi Return to Yoshi Island. That mod looked beautiful. I can't wait for that mod, by the way.
Yeah.
I absolutely can't wait. And he was completely knowledgeable, by the way, when he do those videos essays.
Yeah.
And I love the recent one where he was like in bed with the Yoshis around reading. I mean, funny, by the way. I was like, how come I can't set up that? Ah, man, we should do that. The story time.
Yeah.
From our video, the falling bike story.
Yeah.
Ah, man, that would have been cool, by the way. I was like, why? I got so much plushies. So much plush.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, man. Though I don't have a lot of Yoshi plush, though. But we have a lot of Mario plush. Depending, how the setup might be. But I'm getting a little bit off subject, by the way. But yeah. It was really cool. And you got that guy that did, what was it? The Capsmith, or what was it? That Super Mario 64 mod, by the way.
Yeah.
Where the new cap power-ups and all that.
Yeah.
That was cool, by the way.
And I think it was called Mystery of the Capsmiths.
There you go. And Pat the NES Punk could absolutely reach those guys. Give them little interviews talking about, like, how hard is it to make mods for Nintendo 64?
Yes.
And what makes them do it. Yeah. And Simple Flip versus Simple Flip competition. I would love to see, what is his motive? Like, his inspiration.
And let's talk about the spree running community.
Yeah. Simply, right? Yeah. Oh, man, there's a lot of speedrunners that I enjoy.
GoldenEye 007.
007, yeah.
Like, speedrunners knows the technique. What you need to do to get the best time. You know?
Yeah, I love that game.
They study, everything. Like, they knows. Like when you trying to put the ammo, as it turns out, if you're trying to look down the floor, it speeds up your walk than just to stare at people,
Yeah. Ah, man. Speedrunner. And I remember the whole story with Shees. I believe it was Shees.
Super Mario 64, right?
Yeah. Where he was sick in a competition. Going backtrack a little bit. He was streaming it. Broke the record, but it didn't count because I don't remember the story fully, but I remember it didn't count from some issue. So, but he went and had a redemption arc in that competition. But the thing is, was that in that competition, he made so much error. It's like Bam Margera said in Tony Hawk Underground 2. There's no way you can win. But he did it. It was like a miracle, especially him being sick. So that was a really interesting story.
Yeah.
But it's a encyclopedia, by the way, of the games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate guide to the games that one would love to play, by the way.
Yeah.
The thing is, I kind of hope this happens. Is that he write a disclosure about the reviews. Not just only that it's emulation, but it's from personal writers' opinions. And I used to remember in Nintendo Power, one of the person in the the Q&A section, right, asked, the overall's point score doesn't match the 4 people writing the reviews there. And the guy relied to, it's more than just 4 people that's reviewing it. It's a whole team. And they just average out the reviewers, and that's how the score is there. If you average the 4, there, of course, it doesn't add up to that one. So actually, would it be cool though if Pat the NES Punk have 20 writers, and they all review all the Nintendo 64 games? And it would have been cool to average that together.
You know what would also be cool?
Yeah.
If you could get Nintendo 64 fans, to help, do a survey.
Yeah.
You could have, the critic score and the audience score.
That's a good point. I mean, we're just spitballing ideas, and I don't mind Pat the NES Punk take those ideas. We want him to do better in that book. That's the thing. We don't want him to fail. We want him to do good. This is why, I don't want to worry. This is why I'm voicing out my opinion on that, because I'm a big fan. And I love the Nintendo 64.
I love that system to death.
Yes.
More than my girlfriend.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Well, okay. I'm just gonna leave on that. But I do believe you, though. Actually, I would love to change my name to that, or at least if I, if I could just at least change it for a day. But overall, though, I truly enjoy the system, and I'll give my little backstory. When we were younger, I don't remember, by the way, a lot though, as when I was like a kid. Matter of fact, I don't remember much from middle school nowadays or high school. But the thing that I always remember is getting our first Nintendo 64 system and game.
Yes.
It was at Toys R Us, right?
Yeah.
I believe it was the holiday season. And, actually, was it the holiday season? I know
Somewhere there.
It was winter, that was for sure. It was winter. And I remember seeing, not that I remember. It's just those aisles with the giraffe guy. It was like a little scream, and you check the price there.
Yeah.
I remember Papa got the Nintendo 64. I think it was the Nintendo 64 that he was placing under the scanner, and somehow he was like confused, or I don't remember, but got it to show the actual price or something. I don't remember specifically what was going on. Maybe I don't remember, but one thing for sure, it was Toys R Us, got home, and Super Mario 64, by the way.
I can still remember, and it still stick to my memory, is that I remember Papa had a struggle trying to put the connection. And I remember him getting really angry that I got near.
Yeah.
Yeah. But pretty funny, I easily plug the Nintendo 64. It's not even complicated than modern video games.
Yeah. But I remember, I actually grew up with Mario. Well, more like, I actually, I don't want to say grew up. I'm more like, it molded my character, by the way.
Yeah.
It really, made me, the person I am, by the way.
Yeah, that game changed my life forever.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I can't really say there was any other system, really. Maybe besides the Nintendo GameCube. I can't even really say that was the Sony PlayStation, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember getting that the day that we got the Nintendo Game Boy, though. Though, sadly, our first game was A Bug Life. But I think... What was the store that Dad went? It was like one of those stores, like the size stores or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But who knows? Maybe it was like a GameStop or EB Games. But yeah. And in the car, playing a Game Boy.
Yeah.
Sadly, it was A Bug's Life. We barely beat the first level.
Yeah. I never understood it.
Yeah, the game design on that one. But don't get me wrong, we eventually got some good ones though. Like Super Mario Land 2. 6 golden coins, and Wario Land 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love those games, by the way. But I'm getting off subject though.
Yeah, like always.
I know, right? I need to work on that. Yeah, that's how we got our Nintendo 64.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we got another one actually when Star Wars Episode 1 Racer came out.
The greatest racing game of all.
Yeah. I remember it was like in the second floor of Sears.
Yeah, I remember.
And we got 2, so.
I remember complaining to my mom, and my mom was like, it's good to have a pair. Now when I think about it, yeah, I think it's good to have a pair.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
I didn't even know people on the internet buy like 10 of the same system.
Yeah. And it's funny, we have like 4 different Nintendo GameCube because we all wanted our own personal Nintendo GameCube.
Yeah.
Sis wanted a personal one. I wanted a personal one. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Nintendo Wii. I wanted a personal one. You wanted a personal one.
Yeah.
Nintendo Wii U. You wanted a personal one.
Yeah.
I wanted a personal one.
Yes.
And we even brought another one for guests, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's pretty interesting though.
It is.
But overall though, I just hope Pat the NES Punk does better with the book. I know I've been talking a lot, like always, but do you want to give your personal opinion?
Yeah. Pat, I know he have issues, dealing with criticism.
Especially the whole Diablo Immortal story.
Yeah, where he's like saying video game players are crybabies.
Yeah, entitled.
Which I didn't have a problem with his opinion until he's lashing out.
Actually, yeah, you're right, because I used to be a constant viewer in the broadcast. I was literally key term was one of those people that watched his video every day.
Yeah.
Until that whole Diablo Immortal.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I don't like the holy trinity of S streamers as a person, Darkside Phil, DSP Gaming, DSP React, that guy, that guy, is that he insults his audience.
Yeah.
And that bothers me a lot, by the way.
Me too.
I never am a fan, and also not a fan when trolls make fun of his dent heads, because I don't like making fun of the audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's never my character, really.
It's your customers.
They're the customers. Now, I understand making fun of the dent heads, by the way, but I can never insult people that, viewers. I just can't do it, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm always grateful, by the way. And I wasn't a fan when CM Punk insulted, by the way, the WWE Universe. I know he was playing a character, or at least, that was... I thought it was, but then, he seemed to be very, sensitive with people criticism. And it's just, I'm not a big fan, by the way, when people lash out that guy, their fans, or people that cared. I know one of them was... What was his name? Scout with Scotchfly?
Yeah.
Where he decided he doesn't want to be a cartoon reviewer, and he just wanted to do his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a fan where he was like, F you guys for liking me, or, supporting me. Like, I wasn't a fan when he was lashing out, by the way, the people that actually care, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. I over talk you, power talk you. I remember that Don Tony. Remember Kevin Castle? Why do you always power talk Kevin Castle? He's like, I never heard of that before. Power talk over.
Yeah.
But Don Tony.
But one thing I do want to say, I see myself like Pat the NES Punk. I really do, because we had a similar mindset. And heck, I think I even have similar opinions like him, you know?
Yeah.
And I really do think, I have more in common with the guy. Like, he can, uh, like, he's stuck in the past, just like me, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I love the Nintendo 64, and I still spend a lot more time on that system than modern system.
Yeah, so do I.
But the one thing I am not is mean. I don't like being mean because, what you gain for being mean.
It's an ugly feeling. It really is. And I truly am puzzled, by the way, how Pat think that he doubled down, by the way, on that opinion.
Yeah.
That it was okay to still insult the audience the way he did. Now, criticizing the audience is different. But it's just, I don't understand the insult, by the way.
He couldn't have just said this, by the way. If he have a problem with people, being negative.
Yeah.
He couldn't have said this. And this is a way better take. Having no reaction is the worst reaction. Because, some people take the whole any publicity is a good publicity. But yeah, when nobody is like reacting, that's an awful feeling.
Yeah.
He couldn't have just taken that take.
Yeah.
I bet his career would have, went to a different path.
Yeah. Do I think Pat the NES Punk is a jerk, as everyone say? I think so, but to be honest, his opinions are not that. Well, when I mean his opinions, like his take on certain stuff, right? They're not bad take. Though there is some take, like that one Kickstarter one where he seems to do like a 180 on the whole, like how to weight that product was the what it was, like it was like some kind of device you had to connect to the internet to play emulation or something, and with that you could play multiplayer with other people there.
Mm-hmm.
But due to the pandemic, that product never happened, or at least it was delayed, and then they cancel it. And this guy was like, oh, he thinks that product, right, would do wonders, like fully and endorsing it, not realizing that he's being a hypocrite with the people with the Intellivision Amico.
Yes.
So he does have some bad takes, by the way. But funny enough, and there was some situation where even he was a jerk, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up being right, though.
Yeah.
The thing is, with Pat the NES Punk, I wish his,
I wish he wasn't a punk.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Like the whole CM Punk attitude.
Yeah.
And I know he's a wrestling fan too, by the way.
Just...
I remember Sis was subscribing to him because of those reviews, but I think it was like 2014? No, 2015, where he decided to not review wrestling as much anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did remember him reviewing a little bit of New Japan Pro Wrestling once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Especially New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestle Kingdom.
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, he was very knowledgeable in wrestling. I'm not going to lie, his take was not that bad, by the way.
I still didn't agree with many of them. I mean, he's... but I don't want to say much. I can't...
I mean, I didn't agree with some neither. I said they weren't bad takes, though.
Yeah.
I disagree a lot of what he said, but there weren't bad take. Personally, he can be, insightful, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just that I remember hearing this from this one YouTuber, and I don't know whether or not if it's true. Matter of fact, it could have been Junobi that said this. It's that his family and friends, and yeah, family and friends, even fellow, YouTubers or vendors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't like him personally, and he even admits it, by the way. In that, in words, in his own lips,
Yes.
that there's people, for some reason, do not like him. And I remember him saying that, actually. I don't even needed that video to tell me that. I remember specifically he said this before, by the way, that there were times when he was in the flea market, there were people that personally did not like him.
I know some people don't like me for my corporate mind.
Yeah. And it's like a little bit weird though, because now I never heard about the whole family part. That I never heard of, by the way. But it's a little bit weird that his family, if it's true what he said, that don't like him, it's almost like a red flag there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to approach that opinion, to be honest, because it's weird when family don't like you, by the way. You must have done, not horrible, it's just your personality must be horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think he was a bad person, because when we met him in real life, he was actually kind to us.
Yeah, I know.
I was very pleased every time I met him, by the way.
You got a photo of him.
Yeah, I did, actually. And heck, even after the whole, I seen it happen after the Diablo Immortal. When I met him in real life again, I think it was like, what, 2021? Or was it 2021? Could have been last year, actually. No, it was last year. There you go. It was last year. It was. I never have a bad conversation with Pat.
Yeah.
He was a very chill guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if people were asking what's my personal interaction with him, it was all positive. It wasn't a single time negative. Heck, remember in 2018, I trolled, by the way, talking about what was his favorite Mega Man, Robot Master, and, knowing that he's not a big fan of Mega Man. But, he was like, what was his response? Something, like heist, like it was a food.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he was pretty funny, though.
Yeah.
I enjoyed his presentation, by the way.
And as I remember, he said he's trying to be civilized, when he's in the public.
Yeah. Overall, though, I think it's just like how I felt with some YouTubers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where my opinion is not on like their personalities. Well, in this case, it's the opposite with Pat the NES Punk. It's more on his personality than his content.
Yeah.
But some YouTubers, I have problems with their content rather than their personality, though.
Yeah.
Pat the NES Punk is a little bit the opposite. I don't know if that makes sense, by the way.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. For example, it's like Duty Stream. Not Duty Stream, but like... Yeah, Duty Stream. I don't have a problem with Duty Stream. His personality or anything. I just have a problem with his clickbait, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Though some of them are funny, though. And I sometimes foolishly click them thinking that was the title, but ended up being clickbait. But it's just sometimes his approach, by the way. Now,
yes.
I remember Duty Stream. Some people have problem with his massive upload. For me, that was never the problem.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the massive upload. The problem with me was his, clickbait, by the way.
Yes.
But yeah, that's an example I'm trying to say with Pat the NES Punk. It's almost the vice versa, by the way. Mm-hmm. It's his personality I have a problem. Well, at least how he approached them sometimes.
Yeah.
I bet he's a good dude, by the way.
I bet so too.
No, I wouldn't say personality. It's his insecurity. That's what I meant to say. His insecurity I got a problem with.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe, though, he's a good guy, by the way. I just want to make the record straight, by the way. Is that I don't technically have the problem with Pat as, because I don't know the person. But I do have a problem how he responds to his insecurity.
Yeah. Again, he got an ego.
And I'm just worried about that Nintendo 64 book, because I'm a huge fan of the Nintendo 64. Now, if it turned out to be horrible, obviously I don't want to buy it. And then you're gonna say, then why we have this entire conversation? Here's the answer: is how non-Nintendo 64 players will interpret that book, because they might ultimately have a bias when playing these games, and that is what I'm afraid of.
Me too.
Is that they will literally not care for a certain game if a review say so. By the way,
Yeah.
for example, Darkside Phil, his opinion was always based on reviews. By the way, even so he claims it wasn't. But if you ever pay attention, by the way, to DSP Gaming, the YouTube channel, you notice a lot of inconsistencies, by the way, with his, when he like talks about a game and agreeing with, with critics, if his stream doesn't hit, by the way. But if his stream, well, when that doesn't hit, I mean, like if the gold in the stream hits. But if a gold does hit it, by the way, he seems to be the contrarian. He seems to be the opposite, by the way.
Yeah.
He would literally like love a horrible game, by the way, just because his memory is based on money, by the way.
Yeah.
That's how I feel with people that's actually viewing a game based on reviews before actually playing it, and they already have that mindset. Mm-hmm. But it's not always that way. Heck, I remember playing certain games where the review said it was horrible, or people have a bad opinion on it, and I was like, this is not such a bad game. Though, to be honest, it could be patches that already fixed some of the problems, though. But then, I had the same thing done with older games, by the way. That, of course, how could you get updates?
Yeah.
One good example I got was Mega Man 64, by the way. Mm-hmm. I remember people talks about how, well, there were some mixed opinions, but actually, can you believe it's been like over 10 years since I played Mega Man 64?
No, yes.
I felt like it was just yesterday, by the way. No, literally. Well, technically 9 years, probably. But this is like 2023?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've literally brought Mega Man 64 when I heard Mega Man was announced for Super Smash Bros. 4. But that's not the point. The point was that I remember hearing opinion about that game being terrible, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
When I played it, I actually loved it, by the way. I literally loved it more than Mega Man Battle Network,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, any final thought, by the way?
I just really hope the book goes well, I'm not asking for any ill will for Pat, though I do not like him. But I tried my best to respect him.
Yeah, totally understandable. Yeah, I just hope the book turned out well. We don't know yet, by the way.
Yeah.
Actually, the book didn't came out yet, right? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Because, the whole Junoba thing. Yeah, it was talking about he was working that book since several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's still, I'm working. But no, when I heard, I saw that video a while ago. I always wanted to do this conversation with you.
Yeah.
Give out my personal opinion on it. But overall, I'm just worried, by the way.
Me too.
So, yeah.
Alright, guys. If you like the show, and if you have any questions about the show, or its characters, or if you want to email us with a business deal, you can email at wearepracticing@yahoo.com. Also, be sure to, if you're in Twitter, be sure to follow us at our Twitter handle, We're Practicing. And with that, thank you for watching, And I hope to see you guys next time if you choose to pick word pressing setting again. Alright, bye!
Bye!